When Elias handed me the divorce agreement, I could not understand it at all. After all, we had only finished our wedding yesterday. I need a reason. Elias rubbed his brow and said wearily, Amanda, I already gave you an explanation for the first half of my life. Ruby is back. For the second half of my life, I want to give myself an explanation. Chapter 1. Ruby, that name again. In my 14-year relationship with Elias, there had never been any major complications. The only time his heart had ever strayed was because of Ruby. Elias, we only had our wedding yesterday, and today, you're telling me you want a divorce so you can go find Ruby. I could not help feeling angry. Amanda, I know I'm wronging you by doing this, but if I don't do it, I'll spend the rest of my life living in regret. I've already kept my promise and given you a wedding. This time, I want to live for myself. I nearly laughed out of anger. In his heart, marrying me was an obligation, a compromise, something he did because of a promise, not because of love. When did things start between you and Ruby? I clenched my palms tightly, doing my best to remain calm. Don't overthink it. There's nothing between her and me right now. Amanda, I've never betrayed you. Take a look at the divorce agreement. The marital home will be yours, and so will all the assets, as long as you agree to the divorce. I don't want anything. Think it over carefully. Dominic and the others are meeting up with me tonight, so I won't be coming back. Before I could say anything, Elias grabbed his jacket from the sofa and walked out the door, as though, if he were even a step slower, he would hear an answer he did not want to hear. Chapter 2. I sat dazedly on the sofa, flipping through the divorce agreement in my hands, yet not taking in a single word. I thought of Ruby. To be fair, she was a woman with many admirable qualities. She was confident and beautiful, always effortlessly drawing everyone's attention. I knew about her because I had discovered a profile photo of her saved in Elias's phone gallery. But 6 years ago, when I was a senior in college, she had gone abroad. I never imagined that 6 years will allow Elias's regret to fill his entire heart, squeezing out every last bit of affection he had for me. BZZ. I picked up my phone. It was a call from Lily, the wife of Elias's best friend. Glancing at the time, I realized I had actually been sitting there in a daze for 2 hours. Hello? I answered the call, but there was no response from the other end. Instead, Elias's conversation with his friend came through clearly over the line. Have you really thought this through? Elias, I only wished you a happy marriage yesterday. I've been thinking about it for 6 years. Dominic, before I met Ruby, I always thought I loved Amanda, but after I met Ruby, I realized that what I felt for Amanda was only responsibility. Ruby is the son I want to chase. Elias's resolute voice pierced through me like an icy blade, leaving me torn and bleeding. The 14 years of love I had treasured so deeply were nothing more than responsibility to him. But Ruby already has a child. I don't care. Then why didn't you explain everything clearly to Amanda before the wedding? Why did you insist on waiting until after you got married to divorce her? The call fell silent for a moment before Elias's voice sounded again. Before her father died, he entrusted her to me. He said his greatest wish was to see us get married. I swore an oath at his bedside. I had no choice but to go through with this wedding. A chill spread through me, every drop of blood in my body turning cold. Elias and I had known each other since childhood. Everyone believed we would eventually end up together. When I was 18, my father became gravely ill. He gripped Elias's hand and asked him to marry me. And Elias, his eyes red, swore that he would. My father believed our love was mutual and that we would surely have a future together. I had believed so too. Now it seemed it had merely been wishful thinking on my part. Ruby is coming back tomorrow. Maybe God finally heard my prayers. I don't want to live with regrets anymore. A bitter smile crossed my lips. Elias, I honestly can't tell anymore whether you're deeply devoted or heartless. It was Lily's voice. Buddy, take my advice. If you're determined to get divorced, then you should walk away with nothing. What you're doing is wrong. I know. I can give up everything, as long as Amanda agrees to the divorce. I don't want Ruby to become the third. I truly could not bear to listen any longer. So I hung up immediately. I took several deep breaths, calming the turbulent emotions surging inside me. Only when there were no more waves in my heart did I make my decision. I opened WeChat and found that Lily had also sent me a screenshot of Ruby's Moments post. The caption read, See you tomorrow. Homeland. Attached was her flight information. I replied, "Thank you." Then opened the pin chat at the top and typed, "Tomorrow morning at 9. Civil Affairs Bureau." Half a minute later, the reply came, "Okay." I exited the chat, unpinned it, then scrolled down to a WeChat contact saved as Doofus and replied, "I've decided to enter the competition you told me about." The other person replied almost instantly, "My flight arrives at 4 tomorrow afternoon. Come receive royalty." I replied with okay, then turned off my phone and prepared the documents I would need for the divorce tomorrow. I was not the kind of woman who would kneel and beg a man to turn back, nor was I someone who dragged things out. Since he wanted a divorce, then a divorce it would be. If he did not care about our 14 years together, then there was no need for me to treasure them either. Chapter 3. When I woke up naturally in the morning, Elias had already finished packing. It seemed he could not wait to divorce me. We went to the Civil Affairs Bureau in silence and completed the divorce procedures very smoothly, with only the 1-month cooling-off period remaining. 1 month from now, I'll remind you, we'll come back then to collect the divorce certificate. Elias seemed somewhat unaccustomed to my cold attitude. He frowned and nodded. Then, after thinking for a moment, added, "Amanda, if you ever run into any difficulties in the future, you can still come to me. No need." I waved my hand in refusal, then drove away, ignoring Elias's complicated gaze. At 4 in the afternoon, I arrived at the airport pickup area. Unexpectedly, I ran into him again. Only belatedly did I remember that Ruby's flight was also arriving this afternoon. He must have come to pick her up. Elias saw me as well, with a helpless look on his face. He walked over. "Amanda, I know it's hard for you to accept this in such a short amount of time, but you shouldn't follow me around. You're making things very difficult for me. If possible, I hope you can try meeting other people instead of revolving around me." He looked extremely troubled, but I almost wanted to laugh. "It's a misunderstanding, just a coincidence. I'm not following you. I'm here to pick someone up." He was about to say something else, but I put on my earphones and walked to the side, avoiding any further contact with him. He stood there looking at me. I lowered my head, unable to make out his expression, until the noisy clamor of the crowd came from the arrival gate. He spotted Ruby at a glance and immediately walked toward her with incredible attentiveness. I saw her at first glance too. There was no helping it. Ruby was so strikingly beautiful that it was impossible not to notice her. Ruby was accompanied by a girl who was obviously mixed race. Elias tried to hug her, but Ruby pulled the girl behind her. Ruby smiled at Elias, but there was a polite distance in that smile. After Elias finished a long speech, Ruby shook her head, said something brief, then walked past him and headed outside. The frustration on Elias's face was obvious. Had she rejected Elias's offer to pick her up? Before I could figure out what was happening, a powerful voice pierced my eardrums. "Darling." A tall black shadow darted out, scooped me up, and spun me around 3 times on the spot. Laughing, I patted the shoulder of the person in front of me, signaling for her to put me down. "I missed you to death. I missed you so much that I couldn't wait to fly back and find you." The 6'2" giant in front of me, her short hair a messy mop, spoke with an aggrieved expression. Elias's gaze in our direction felt almost tangible. I could sense a trace of confusion and anger in his eyes, as though I had committed some terrible mistake. Yes, I missed you too. I've already booked a restaurant for tonight to welcome you back." I pinched Fiona's sculpted, comic book-like face, while girls passing by stomped their feet and squealed quietly beside us. But who would have thought that this tall and handsome young man standing before me was actually a woman? Come on, let's go buy some milk tea. I'm dying of thirst." Fiona took my hand and walked forward, passing Elias as though no one else were there. Elias's face turned livid. He raised his hand as though he wanted to stop me, but forcibly restrained himself. Chapter 4. Where's your husband? Is he coming to dinner tonight? I haven't even met him yet. Fiona sipped her milk tea, her long legs barely fitting in the cramped passenger seat. My phone chimed with a new message. I casually glanced at it. It was from Elias. "Amanda, I hope you won't randomly find some man just to spite me." I sneered. I knew Elias had misunderstood, but I had no desire to explain. "We're divorced," I said indifferently. The moment the words left my mouth, a violent coughing fit erupted from the passenger seat. No, wait. What? I remember you only just got married? A pair of round eyes stared widely at me. By the time I finished explaining the whole story, Fiona had already finished cursing for the 99th time. She was furious beyond belief. Yet I was the one comforting her. All right, let's not talk about this rotten mess anymore. I want to prepare properly for the Bluebird Cup design competition. I want to return to the design industry. I had majored in jewelry design in college. I had once been a genius praised by my professors. And I had met Fiona while I was on an exchange program in the United States during university. Previously, for Elias, I had given up everything, wholeheartedly wanting to become the support behind his family. Thinking about it now, I must have had something wrong with my brain. I know your abilities better than anyone. You'll definitely win. Otherwise, why would I have come back? Fiona leaned back in her seat and lazily sipped her milk tea. While we were waiting at a traffic light, my phone chimed with another message. It was still from Elias. Who is that man? A friend? Why have I never seen him before? He doesn't look very reliable. Amanda, don't let yourself be deceived. I'm saying this for your own good. I did not quite understand. Wasn't he wholeheartedly determined to pursue Ruby? Why was he still interfering in my life? I typed quickly. Weren't you the one who told me to meet other people? Don't contact me again unless there's something important. It's quite annoying. Then I blocked his WeChat contact in one smooth motion. Chapter 5. By the time I returned home that evening, Elias had already moved out. I began focusing wholeheartedly on preparing for the design competition. I had no desire to hear any news about Elias. But unfortunately, his pursuit of Ruby was so spectacular that it was impossible to ignore. A gigantic bouquet made of 999 roses, a fireworks display lasting half an hour, and a drone show forming Ruby's name in the sky. Every single thing he did was enough to make the local trending searches on Weibo. Even people in my moments who had absolutely nothing to do with Elias posted photos from the scene, with captions saying, "This damn enviable love." I could not help remembering the scene when Elias proposed to me. There had been no romantic kneeling on one knee, no beautiful diamond ring, and no touching vows. It had merely been during the most ordinary dinner imaginable when Elias casually said, "Let's get married," and I had foolishly thought we had pledged ourselves to each other for life. I had kept trying to convince myself he had simply been too busy to prepare anything. We had been together for too long. So a proposal would have been too sentimental. A diamond ring was only a stone, so there was no need for one. Then I had foolishly chosen the date, looked at wedding dresses, and hired a wedding planner all by myself. Elias satisfied everything I wanted. He never offered any opinions. He simply paid for it. And so, we had a grand wedding. Thinking back on it now, he probably had not been very willing to marry me at all. 14 years of false affection. It must truly have been hard on him. I shook my head, cast all these thoughts aside, and began seriously working on my design sketches. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was the day of the competition. Chapter 6. After arriving at the competition venue, I saw Ruby's name on the list of contestants. And then, unsurprisingly, I ran into Elias again. When he saw me, he seemed very pleased. "Amanda, long time no see. Did you come to see me? I'm sorry, but I can't keep you company right now. Ruby's competition is about to begin. You seem to have lost quite a bit of weight recently. Maybe after the competition, I can accompany you to dinner." Strangely enough, Elias's words no longer affected my emotions in the slightest. I merely rolled my eyes inwardly, refraining from showing it out of basic courtesy. Fortunately, Fiona was not by my side because she had gone to the restroom. Otherwise, hearing this, she definitely would have given Elias a couple of punches. I replied coldly, "No need. I've been doing quite well recently. I'm here to compete. If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving now." It was clearly not the answer he had expected. Elias's smile stiffened on his face as I turned and left. By the time I reached the waiting area, Fiona was already waiting there. Where does he get that kind of confidence? Does he think the whole world revolves around him? I seriously question your taste back then. How did you end up with a man who's both stupid and ridiculously overconfident? After I told her what had just happened, Fiona was so furious she was practically steaming from the top of her head. I sighed as well and shook my head. Everyone has moments when they're blind. Hey, 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 it's your turn. Hurry, get up there. Fiona elbowed me. I took a deep breath and slowly walked onto the stage. I took out my design, a koi-shaped pendant with a jadeite head and a white jade tail, and began my presentation. More than 20 days of painstaking study and refinement were all concentrated into this moment. When the judges announced my score, thunderous applause erupted from the audience. I had taken first place by a landslide. I excitedly walked off the stage, only to find that the person waiting there was actually Elias, holding a bouquet of flowers. A trace of amazement flashed through his eyes, as though he had discovered my strengths for the very first time. Amanda, I never expected that you would be so talented in design as well. When someone is rendered completely speechless, they really do laugh. We had been together for so long, yet he still did not know that I had ranked first in my major at university. Before I could reply, Ruby also walked over. Elias immediately carried the bouquet toward her. Ruby, congratulations on coming in second. Ruby thanked him politely, but did not accept the flowers. Instead, she walked around Elias and headed straight toward me. I was somewhat confused. The way these two interacted did not look like they were in a relationship at all. Miss Amanda, your work is outstanding. I like it very much. You absolutely deserve first place. Congratulations. Ruby extended her hand toward me, smiling graciously and appropriately, her eyes filled with undisguised admiration. Actually, putting aside the fact that Ruby was a factor in the breakdown of my marriage, she truly was an opponent worthy of respect. I extended my hand and politely shook hers. My daughter is still waiting for me. I hope we'll have the chance to talk in greater detail next time. She nodded to me in acknowledgement, then walked toward the little girl in the audience who was cheering excitedly. Elias stood where he was, looking somewhat awkwardly at the flowers in his hands with a complicated expression on his face. I was just about to leave when a shadow suddenly darted out and pressed me against her completely flat chest. Baby, you were amazing. I knew you would win. As though Fiona still had not expressed enough excitement, she planted a loud kiss on my cheek. Elias's hand tightened around the bouquet instantly, and the flowers made a crunching sound. Out of the corner of my eye, I glanced at him. His face had turned green. You two are together? Elias's voice was unmistakably hoarse. Fiona turned her head and saw him, immediately raising her chin like a proud rooster. She wrapped an arm around my shoulders and said contemptuously, "We've been together for a long time." Then she waved at him in an exceptionally dashing manner, took my hand, and left without sparing Elias another glance. Behind us came the sound of the bouquet hitting the ground. I could not help laughing silently. Why are you so angry, Elias? Isn't me being with someone else exactly what you wanted? Chapter 7. That night, we stayed at a hotel to celebrate my award. Fiona bought quite a lot of alcohol. Just as she was opening a bottle, my phone rang. I answered it directly. Hello? Amanda. It's me. I didn't get the chance to congratulate you on winning during the day. It was Elias again. His voice sounded unsteady, as though he had drunk a lot. Thank you, but there's no need. You should go congratulate Ruby, I said coldly. The call fell silent for a moment. Amanda, whether you believe it or not, Ruby and I aren't together. Could you? Before Elias could finish, Fiona's voice came from nearby. Baby, hurry up. I've finished opening the wine. Coming, I called out loudly. Do you need anything else? I'm a little busy here. You two are still together this late at night? Elias's voice was filled with anger and trembling. I replied with complete calmness. Yes, we're celebrating. I'm hanging up now. Then I blocked his number. That night, Fiona and I both drank quite a lot. It was my first time drinking that much, and by the end, I could no longer remember how drunk I had gotten. It was not until I woke up the next day with a splitting headache that I discovered more than 99 missed calls on my phone. When I opened WeChat, I found that quite a few people had sent me messages. Dominic's messages had already reached more than 99. I opened them and saw that they were all written in Elias's tone. Amanda, why aren't you answering your phone? Where are you? Why didn't you come home? I'm begging you, please answer the phone. You didn't sleep with him, right? You wouldn't do something like that. I know you. You must be lying to me. You're just lying to me. He had sent messages almost the entire night. I opened Moments and discovered that, In the middle of the night, I had actually posted a photo of Fiona holding me as we collapsed onto the bed. Both our faces were flushed red, although our clothes were perfectly intact. Given Fiona's 100% masculine build, it really did look like some kind of post-sex photo. The comment section was extraordinarily entertaining, and Lily's comment was especially brief and powerful. She had replied, "Savage." I looked at Fiona beside me, sleeping like the dead, and slapped my forehead. Alcohol really does ruin things. Chapter 8. I hurriedly clarified in the comments section, "We're both girls. Don't misunderstand." Then I yanked Fiona up. "Hurry up and get moving. You're going to miss your flight." She practically launched herself out of bed. Just before I left, I saw a new friend request in my phone contacts. It was Ruby. I hesitated for a moment, then accepted it. A message came from the other side. "Do you have time to meet this afternoon?" "Yes. Then I'll wait for you at Moon Bay Cafe at 4 this afternoon." I turned off my phone and took Fiona to the airport. The 6'2" giant clung to me tearfully, constantly muttering that her doctoral advisor was stingy as hell for only giving her a little over 20 days off. She kept holding on to me, telling me to visit her in the United States when I had time. Only after receiving my most definite promise did she finally enter security, looking back at me every few steps. At 4 in the afternoon, I arrived at the cafe as agreed. Ruby was already there. "Sorry, I didn't know what you liked to drink, so I ordered you an Americano." "It's fine." I pulled out a chair and sat down directly. "I heard that Elias divorced you because of me, although that was never my intention. I'm still very sorry." There was genuine apology in Ruby's eyes. I took a sip of my Americano. "I thought you would get together with Elias. After all, the entire city knows he's pursuing you." Ruby shook her head. "To be honest, the way Elias behaves has been quite troubling for me. I don't want to become the center of attention over something like this." She brushed a strand of hair from her forehead behind her ear. "Elias thinks he has deep feelings for me, but it's nothing more than a small regret from his youth. After holding on to that regret for so long, it became an obsession. He has never been able to see himself clearly." I had not expected Ruby to understand Elias so thoroughly. "Don't you like Elias?" "I originally thought that, now that you were back, you would marry him." Ruby smiled. "Don't misunderstand. I have no intention of ever getting married. I only returned to participate in the competition." I was somewhat surprised. "Then the child?" "I did give birth to her. I used IVF and chose a donor from a sperm bank. Although I don't intend to marry, I wanted to have a child of my own." I was momentarily stunned. I had considered divorce or widowhood, but I had never imagined that the truth would be like this. Ruby stirred the coffee in her cup. "Amanda, I'm not speaking on Elias's behalf, but I can tell that the person Elias deeply loves is you." He was controlled by his unwillingness to let go and blinded by his obsession. "Once those emotions fade, he'll be able to face his true feelings. At that point, he'll understand that I was merely someone passing through his life, while you are his future." A smile tugged at the corners of my lips as I shook my head. "It doesn't matter anymore. It's all in the past. Who would even want a man who can't see his own heart clearly?" Ruby looked at me for quite a while, then let out a soft sigh, though I did not know whom she felt sorry for. "Forget it. Let's not talk about that anymore. Actually, besides apologizing, there's something else I came to see you about today." Ruby handed me a business card. "I opened a jewelry design studio in the United States. You have immense talent in design. I know I can't compare to you. I hope we can work together. I truly mean it, and I hope you'll seriously consider it." I repeatedly turned the business card over in my hands, emotions surging in my heart. Becoming a jewelry designer was something I had always dreamed of. A moment later, I gave her my answer. "Thank you for your kindness, but not for the time being. I'm preparing to apply for the graduate program at University M in the United States and continue my studies in design. If I really get accepted, we can discuss working together then." Applying for graduate school was not an idea that had occurred to me on a whim. It had been on my mind ever since I decided to divorce. Ruby looked very surprised. She looked me up and down before saying, "Amanda, taking the graduate school entrance exam 6 years after graduating requires immense courage. You'll face far more difficulties than other people." She paused, then smiled. "But when it comes to you, I believe you can succeed. You're a woman with tremendous inner strength. Elias isn't worthy of you. She stood up. My invitation will always remain open. I'm returning to the United States tomorrow. I hope I'll see you there someday. She extended her hand and shook mine, then politely took her leave. As I watched Ruby's straight, graceful back, I could not help thinking Elias was not worthy of her either. Chapter 9. By the time I returned home, it was already dark. I opened the door and turned on the light, only to find Elias sitting motionlessly on the sofa. This was the first time Elias had returned home in more than 20 days. Why are you here? Is something wrong? I changed my shoes, thinking that I ought to change the lock. Without saying a word, Elias walked over, his eyes bloodshot. He yanked me toward him and forcefully pressed me into his arms, holding me so tightly that it hurt. I struggled violently, but no matter how hard I tried, I could not break free. I viciously bit him, and only when the pain hit him did he loosen his hold slightly. I broke free from his restraint and slapped him with all my strength. Elias, what are you doing? Are you out of your mind? Yes, I am out of my mind. When I see you with someone else, when I see that you didn't come home all night, when I think about you leaving me, I really do feel like I'm going insane. Elias shouted himself hoarse. For a moment, I was speechless. I did not know how I was supposed to face the hysterical man in front of me. He was clearly the one who had asked for a divorce. Yet now he was also the one saying all of this. I said in a somewhat soothing tone, Elias, you're very agitated right now. Calm down a little. When you've calmed down, we can talk. All right? Elias closed his bloodshot eyes and slowly dragged his feet backward step by step. He collapsed onto the sofa and buried his face in his hands. Chapter 10. 15 minutes later, I sat across from Elias making tea. Elias spoke hoarsely. Amanda, recently, everything that has happened has been completely different from what I imagined. I thought that after divorcing you and going after Ruby, I would finally get what I wanted. I thought I would be happy. I handed Elias a cup of tea and said calmly, Isn't that what happened? No, it isn't. He rubbed his face with his hand. On the day of our divorce, at the airport, I saw you being intimate with someone else. I was unhappy, very unhappy. Then I thought that I shouldn't feel that way. It was a good thing that you weren't clinging to me anymore. That way, I could openly pursue Ruby. I blamed all the negative emotions I felt that day on not being used to it. I took a sip of tea and listened quietly. But later, when I declared my love for Ruby and you didn't react at all, I actually felt angry, so I became increasingly ostentatious in the way I expressed my feelings for her. I couldn't wait to see your reaction, but there was nothing. You never once came to question me. Actually, the first thought I had when I saw you at the competition venue yesterday was that I missed you terribly. It had been so long since I'd eaten a meal with you, but I quickly panicked. I wasn't supposed to feel that way. If I truly missed you, then what did that make my feelings for Ruby? I lowered my eyes and let out a soft sigh, not knowing how I was supposed to react. Yesterday afternoon, Ruby talked to me. She rejected my pursuit once again and said she would be returning to the United States soon. At that moment, instead of feeling defeated, I actually felt relieved. I selfishly thought, look, I pursued her. I'm no longer the coward I was back then, too afraid to even take one step forward. Ruby rejected me. So does that mean I can come back to you now? I waited for you all night yesterday, until after midnight, but you never came home. When I saw the post you made on Moments, I practically lost my mind with rage. I rubbed my forehead, also finding the whole thing absurd. I had made such a huge joke of myself. Fortunately, everything was just a misunderstanding, and everything can still be fixed. Elias suddenly became emotional. He grabbed my hand, causing a few drops of the tea I was holding to spill out. Amanda, I regret it. I truly regret it. I've figured it out now. What I felt for Ruby was only regret, not love. The person I've always loved is you. Only you. I'm sorry. I was a bastard. I know I acted like an animal and completely broke your heart. I'll spend all the time I have left making it up to you. Forgive me, okay? Elias's voice choked with emotion. He had always been proud and arrogant. For him to humble himself and say these words today was already beyond anything I had expected. I placed the cup of tea on the coffee table and said evenly, Elias, we're already divorced. No, We haven't received the divorce certificate yet. There's still a chance. There's still a chance. Elias looked at me expectantly, his voice filled with pleading. I looked into his eyes and sighed softly again. Have you ever considered that perhaps you don't love me either? Perhaps you only think this way now because I stayed by your side for 14 years, and you truly just aren't used to my absence. That's not true. Amanda, I'm certain I love you. I really do love you. But I don't love you anymore. I spoke the words lightly, but they weighed thousands of pounds, striking Elias so hard that he seemed stunned. His mouth fell slightly open. He wanted to say something, but for a moment, nothing came out. He merely stared at me blankly. I pulled my hand free from Elias's grasp. Let's leave it at that, Elias. Separating is for the best. His eyes turned bright red as he shook his head violently. No, after all these years together, you can't simply sentence me to death so easily. I rubbed my brow, genuinely feeling exhausted. I did not want to keep dragging this out. It's too late tonight, and I'm a little tired. You should leave. Seeing me frown, Elias remained silent for a long while before finally standing up and walking to the door. Amanda, I will definitely make you forgive me. Leaving these words behind, he gently closed the door and left. I buried myself in the sofa, lying there spread-eagled, honestly feeling that none of this was necessary. Chapter 11. Having decided to apply for graduate school, I began preparing. Fiona recommended several professors at University M to me. They were all fellow students of her doctoral advisor from the same academic lineage, and every one of them was a renowned figure in the industry. Some had even founded their own brands. I immersed myself in the ocean of design. Ruby had been right. Wanting to pursue a graduate degree 6 years after graduation was indeed far more difficult than it was for other people. A great deal of the professional knowledge I had learned before needed to be reviewed from the beginning, and that was not something that could be done overnight. I reached out to one of my university professors, who had taught at University M for several years in the past. I was very fortunate that my professor still remembered me. She was delighted that I was returning to the design industry and enthusiastically wrote me a letter of recommendation. Fiona also showed my award-winning competition piece to her doctoral advisor. According to Fiona, her advisor marveled at my talent, voluntarily wrote me a letter as well, and said that if I ever chose to pursue a doctorate, I absolutely had to apply to become her student. I was immensely grateful. Now that I had my recommendation letters, I began preparing my portfolio. For several days in a row, I buried myself in my room, searching for inspiration and drawing design sketches, from sunrise in the east to a sky filled with stars. Elias came to see me many times, wanting to ask me out, but I turned him down each time with various excuses. His WeChat and phone number were still blocked, and he had no other way to reach me. That day, just after I finished the design sketch for a ring, I received a message from Lily. Tomorrow is Dominic's and my 3rd wedding anniversary. 7 o'clock tomorrow evening at the Oasis Grand Hotel. Amanda, could you come? I rubbed my aching eyes and gave it some thought. Lily and I had always been on fairly good terms, and she had helped me quite a bit in the past. It would be more appropriate for me to attend. I replied simply, okay. Chapter 12. I got myself ready and arrived at the Oasis Grand Hotel right on time. The moment I pushed open the doors to the ballroom where Lily and the others were holding their party, several party poppers burst above my head with a series of bangs. Elias, dressed in a dark blue suit and holding a bouquet of roses, walked toward me with a deeply affectionate expression. He knelt down on one knee and pulled a ring box from among the flowers. Inside was a diamond ring. My eyes remained fixed on the ring without blinking. That design was one I had created myself while I was in university. It was the piece I had been most satisfied with. Back then, I had excitedly shown it to Elias and coyly told him that he had to use that ring when he proposed to me in the future. He had smiled and agreed. But even after our wedding, I had never received it. I never expected it to appear before my eyes today. Amanda, although we've already gotten married, I know I still owe you a proposal. I was a fool before. It was my fault. From now on, all I want is to be with you properly, whether in poverty or wealth. I am willing to hold your hand until our hair turns white. Miss Amanda, will you marry me? Elias's hand trembled slightly, his eyes filled with anticipation. I looked around. All of Elias's good friends were standing nearby, clapping their hands and chanting in unison. Say yes! Say yes! Dominic was recording on his phone, while Lily stood to the side with her arms crossed, looking thoroughly displeased with Elias. Actually, I had expected something like this to happen today. I had come to attend Lily's anniversary celebration, and Elias would certainly be present as well, judging by what he had said before. He was bound to do something today. I felt neither moved nor angry. I only felt somewhat helpless. I walked up to Elias, extended my hand, and revealed a relieved smile. The light appeared on his face as he took out the ring, intending to put it on my finger, but I did not give him that chance. I helped him up from where he was kneeling, patted him on the shoulder, and said in an extremely calm voice, "Tomorrow is the day we collect our divorce certificate, 9 in the morning at the Civil Affairs Bureau. Don't forget." After saying that, I ignored Elias's ashen face and walked straight out of the hotel. Behind me came Elias's shouts and Dominic telling Lily to stop me, followed by Lily's furious roar. "You fucking idiot. Make me do this again, and we'll be getting divorced tomorrow too." I did not stop walking. I took out my car keys, got into my car, and drove away. Even after the car started moving, Elias still ran out after me in a disheveled state, shouting as he ran. I did not slow down. Eventually, Elias became a tiny dot in my rearview mirror, then was blocked by another car and disappeared from sight completely. By the time I returned home, Lily had sent me an apologetic message. "Amanda, I'm very sorry. I couldn't resist Dominic's pleading, and I put you in a difficult position." I did not blame Lily. It was only natural that Dominic would try to help his friend. I replied, "It's all right," then plunged back into my study once again. A good idea had come to me on the drive home, and I needed to hurry and sketch it out. Chapter 13. At 9 in the morning, I arrived at the Civil Affairs Bureau, but Elias did not show up. I waited until noon, but he still did not come. With no other choice, I removed Elias's phone number from my block list and called him. The phone rang a few times before he answered. "Elias, why didn't you come?" I tried my best to suppress my anger. "Amanda, I don't want a divorce. Can we not get divorced?" His tone was cautious, while I only felt utterly exhausted. I knew Elias had no intention of getting divorced anymore. "It's fine. It doesn't matter if you don't come. At most, we'll still be divorced within 2 years. I hung up and drove home. By the time I arrived, Elias was already standing outside my door, unshaven and with his hair in disarray, as though he had not slept all night. I had changed the lock on the house a few days earlier. He did not have a key, so he could only wait outside the door. His bloodshot eyes looked at me. "Amanda, do we really have no chance anymore?" "Yes," I answered almost before he finished asking. "But why? I was never with Ruby. Why can't any of this be salvaged? Are we really going to let more than 10 years of feelings go to waste just like this?" Both his voice and his expression were filled with confusion, perhaps in his expectations. Although I would reject him at first, I would eventually agree to reconcile because I could not bear to let go of our relationship. "Elias, Ruby used to be your obsession. Aren't I now just another obsession of yours? Let go. I've already let go too. We should both move forward." I walked past Elias and entered the house. I had no intention of inviting Elias inside to sit down, but just as I was closing the door, Elias still grabbed my hand. He said nothing. He merely looked at me with his reddened eyes, misty with tears. I shook off his hand and closed the door. A moment later, his low sobs came from outside. I ignored them and went into the study. Chapter 14. For the next 3 whole months, I worked on my portfolio for my application to University M. Elias still had not given up. On most nights, I could see his figure from the window. He would simply stand quietly beneath the streetlight, his head slightly raised, probably looking in the direction of the house, a scarlet ember glowing between his fingers. He, who had never touched cigarettes before, had now actually learned to smoke. He often stood there from the moment night fell until the break of dawn. He attempted to make me change my mind through this self-moving display of devotion, but I never saw Elias even once, since I had already decided to separate from him. Why would I give him pointless hope? I finished preparing all the materials for my graduate school application and sent them by email, then flung myself onto my bed and stretched out luxuriously. As my nerves, which had been tense for so long, finally relaxed, I let out a long breath. My days of forgetting to eat and sleep had finally come to a temporary end. Unexpectedly, only 3 days later, I received an offer from University M. I had been successfully admitted. An enormous surprise crashed into me. The first person I shared the news with was Fiona. She was even happier than I was and was already clamoring to help me find a place to live. Unable to contain my joy, I posted on Moments for the first time in a long while. My life would finally embark on a new journey. Chapter 15. In the middle of the night that day, I received a call from Elias. I had declined every single one of his previous calls, but now that my graduate school application had been successful, it was time to bring this matter to a conclusion. I answered the phone. Amanda. The moment Elias spoke, I knew he had drunk quite a lot of alcohol. I called to congratulate you on being admitted to graduate school. Thank you. I was polite and courteous. When are you planning to leave? Next week. Probably. I want to go there early and get accustomed to life there. After I finished speaking, a long silence followed on the phone. So long that I thought the person on the other end had already fallen asleep. Just as I was about to hang up, Elias's voice sounded again. Amanda, if I divorce you, will you be happier? Will you be able to do what you want without anything holding you back? His voice was terribly hoarse. I answered without hesitation. Yes. A distinct sob came through the call. After a long while, Elias said in a trembling voice, I agree to the divorce. Amanda, tomorrow at 9. I'll be waiting for you at the Civil Affairs Bureau. Before I could respond, Elias hung up. Perhaps he did not want me to hear the sound of him breaking down in tears. I put down my phone and let out a long sigh of relief. This 14-year relationship had finally reached its end, even though it was an absurd conclusion I had never imagined. Chapter 16. The next day, when I saw Elias, I discovered that he had changed a great deal. His cheeks were sunken and his eyes lifeless. In just a few short months, he seemed to have aged 10 years. Elias and I collected our divorce certificates in silence. Just as we were about to part ways, he grabbed hold of me. His clouded eyes stared at me for a long while, as though he wanted to carve my image into them. I said nothing and patiently waited for him to let go. Amanda, from now on, you must be happy. I looked at my reflection in his eyes and said with a smile, thank you, you too. We will both have wonderful lives in the future. My blessing was sincere. I now felt neither love nor hatred toward Elias. We were like two old acquaintances making our final farewell. Elias released my arm one finger at a time. I waved to him, then turned and left. The sky was very blue, and the sunlight was warm. Everything I looked forward to in the future lay on the road ahead. Chapter 17. My life studying abroad was busy, yet fulfilling. Under my mentor's guidance, my design style developed into a distinctive school of its own, and I received quite a few design invitations from various brands. After graduation, Fiona and I partnered to establish a Chinese-style jewelry brand. I had always wanted to bring Chinese culture to the world and let people everywhere witness my country's cultural confidence. Miraculously, Ruby and I also became good friends. The three of us would gather from time to time to discuss design plans, and we jointly held several jewelry exhibitions as well. Gradually, my brand became well known to the public, and I became a young entrepreneur featured by major media outlets. At a jewelry gala, I met my husband. He understood my designs and knew my ambitions. He devoted all his efforts to promoting my brand, helping Chinese style sweep across the world. 2 years later, we returned home and held our wedding. Fiona and Ruby were my bridesmaids, and Ruby's daughter was my flower girl. My wedding was held outdoors, with heaven above as our witness and the earth below as our testament. As the officiant read the wedding vows, out of the corner of my eye, I glimpsed a familiar figure, his back hunched and his frame terribly thin, but he soon disappeared from sight again. Bride. Whether he becomes rich or poor in the future, whether he is healthy or unwell, are you willing to be with him forever? I am. I gently placed my hand in the hand of the man before me and let him slip the ring onto my finger, smiling so brightly that my eyes curved into crescents. Everything in the past is merely a prelude. Wherever my heart leads, I shall walk toward it with simple shoes. My future will be a vast sea of stars, with flowers blooming all along the way.